Since the U.S. Supreme Court's McGirt decision 2.5 years ago, other Oklahoma tribes are attempting to apply the ruling to their territories. At the same time, the state of Oklahoma continues its push to limit the impact of the landmark decision that changed criminal jurisdiction throughout eastern Oklahoma. Native Affairs correspondent Kennedy Sepulvedo joins us now to explain. Kennedy.
Rich, and an interesting aspect of these court cases is the question of criminal jurisdiction of Oklahoma and tribal nations is not usually brought up by the tribe, but by the criminal defendant's lawyer. The United States Supreme Court ruled in 2020 that most of eastern Oklahoma remains Indian country. That landmark decision, referred to as the McGirt decision, was based on a criminal case that came out of the Muskogee Creek Nation.
And one of the things that I think people sort of misremember even about McGirt is that the Muskogee Nation never brought that case. It was brought by Mr. McGirt himself, who was facing, and his lawyers, he was facing the death penalty. And so he had, his lawyers were bringing up every argument that they could to save his life.
The McGirt ruling opened the doors for other tribes to prove the decision applied to their nations too.
The 5 tribes that I think most Oklahomans are familiar with have a very similar legal history. So everyone understood, even at the time that McGirt was argued, that what happened with the Muskogee Creek Nation was likely to affect all of the other 5 tribes in the exact same way, because there's not significant differences in the legal history of the tribes.
Although the remaining 4 of the 5 tribes, Cherokee, Seminole, Chickasaw, and Choctaw, still had to prove their reservation status to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals.
Now, there's a number of tribes up in northeast Oklahoma that have also said, we have treaties as well. I mean, for example, one of the tribes we work with is the Peoria tribe, and they have the Treaty of 1867. There was the Ottawas, the Peorias, the Miamis, and a few others.
One of the northeastern Oklahoma tribes already found success proving their reservation was never disestablished. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals ruled the McGirt decision applied to the Quapaw Nation in October 2021, making it the 6th tribe to expand tribal sovereignty over criminal prosecutions. In the 2.5 years since the McGirt ruling, criminal lawyers have tried applying the decision to help indigenous defendants from tribal nations throughout Oklahoma.
There was a case last week, and I just got a copy of it here, Cedric White Buffalo, and they held that the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes' reservations were disestablished. But interestingly, that wasn't really briefed by the tribes at all. It was just a criminal lawyer for Mr. White Buffalo who made the arguments.
And that continues to be the way that most of these cases are brought. They're brought up in the context of a criminal defendant who has a very specific thing that they want to get out of trouble for, or they want to change the penalty that they're likely to have for that act, or they want a different sovereign to prosecute them for that. So that has been the context under which nearly all of these cases, actually all of these cases, I think, except maybe the Osage Nation case.
In 2010, litigation between the Osage Nation and former state tax commissioner Constance Irby questioned if tribal citizens living on their tribe's reservation while working for the tribe are subject to state income tax. While precedent from a 1992 Supreme Court case between the Oklahoma Tax Commission and the Sac and Fox Nation already determined states cannot tax tribal members working for the tribe while living on that tribe's trust or restricted land, the Osage Nation lost the 10th Circuit Court case because the judge determined the reservation was disestablished. Therefore, precedent did not apply in this case due to the lack of trust or restricted land.
There are a lot of legal practitioners and scholars out there that believe that the Osage Nation versus Irby case should be relooked at under a McGirt analysis, and that the previous holdings were faulty given McGirt.
Which is exactly what the Osage Nation is working on now. As for the conversation about taxation, state income tax immunity is being brought up again by members of tribes affected by McGirt.
The state has followed that rule. If you lived on tribal trust or restricted land and you earned income on the reservation, the state for years has exempted that income from state taxation. So this is not a new thing that has happened. But the state had never considered that from a reservation standpoint.
The hearing officer before the tax commission abided by McGirt and said that McGirt applied. But when it went to the full commission, they disavowed the hearing officer and said that no, they were subject to tax. So I think that case is going to get appealed to the Oklahoma Supreme Court.
As some tribes work to expand self-governance in the name of McGirt or attempting to have McGirt apply to their reservations, the state of Oklahoma has challenged the landmark decision in the highest court, limiting the tribe's jurisdiction when a non-Indian is the perpetrator and the victim is indigenous.
The U.S. Supreme Court accepted certiorari and ruled 5-4 against Castro Huerta, saying that there was concurrent jurisdiction over a non-Indian offender under the Major Crimes Act, meaning that Oklahoma and the federal government could prosecute Mr. Castro Huerta.
The Oklahoma News Report requested an interview with Oklahoma Attorney General John O'Connor. We never received word back on that invite. Plus, we reached out to Ryan Leonard, who serves on the governor's special counsel. Leonard, who is the lead negotiator for the state when discussing jurisdictional issues with tribal nations, wasn't able to do an interview but sent a statement that reads, "The 39 tribal nations that call Oklahoma home are integral to the fabric of our great state. Positive and productive working relationships are paramount. We are all Oklahomans, and it is imperative that we work towards a common and bright future." Rich, as McBride stated, several tribes throughout Oklahoma are in the process of arguing McGirt applies to them as well. More is sure to come as the McGirt situation continues to evolve.